Dave Wright is another amazing, multi-talented individual. I have the pleasure of working with Dave every day, and it's such a joy. So he's going to talk to you a little bit about the artwork and the process of creating it. So I'll just kick it over to you, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Let me just quickly present. Can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I can't see your faces, so hopefully you can see and hear me okay. But yeah, I guess just firstly, I just wanted to acknowledge, as we have been acknowledged the evening, and just throw back a huge thanks to Sai for involving me in the process as well. So yeah, great to be here tonight and just give you a little bit of insight into the artwork. So I add this slide because I always find it's a helpful reminder when we start down the path to create something new. When Sai and I began talking about the artwork for Hear Me, as Justin has referred to, we were working together as coaches, and so Sai and I had known each other for just under a year. And in this time, I had very much become a fan of My Dear Watson, but this was the first time that we had collaborated around his music. And this is where things really began, talking about the inspiration behind the song and its meaning. This is often the part that I enjoy the most, getting brought into the world in which the song was created from. So you'll see a couple of keywords and phrases, probably barely legible on the slide, but those were things that were mentioned a few times in our conversations and things that were often by Sai circled back to. And these were the phrases that really we began to build on, particularly breakthrough and not wanting to be ignored / yearning. Pairing these with the music, there were lots of immediate visuals coming to mind. The next step was to narrow down the visual palette to get a sense of what possible directions to start from stylistically. So to do this, I went away and gathered a bunch of existing images and had Sai order the ones he was attracted to or not attracted to, with a possible yeah or a nah, with any reasons that came along or came to mind. So this helped us identify things such as a preference for graphic shapes, higher contrast colors, and a desire for something that was a little bit more abstract. So having gathered the background to the song and a starting point stylistically, I could then dive into exploring concepts. So here are two of the stronger graphics that stood out. So the one on the left is inspired by breaking through, aka bricks being removed, paint being stripped, paper torn, or barriers broken down, as well as hints of sound waves. And the one on the right, the idea of two things that should fit nicely together, not quite matching, a voice and an ear not quite meeting. These shapes were explored further and then applied to the square cover format. And here are some of the earlier options. You can see variations of the rectangles and the semicircular shapes, and you might also see some of the influence of those earlier mood board images as well. And this next slide is the final artwork. Hear Me, the white outline representing the voice not wanting to be ignored, wanting to break through and be heard, and the words here and me being divided by the gap between. Yeah, so once again, a great privilege to be involved in tonight's celebration and to be able to give you a little more insight into the background behind the visuals to support this magical piece of music. And I think on that note, I'll hand back to our fine hosts, Justin, Sai.
That's awesome, Dave. And yeah, I mean, it was such a pleasure. It was such a great process to go through. I've never really done that before. This kind of sort of visual representation, and I was blown away with everything. It was actually the hardest bit was picking one, right? It was picking the concepts to go with. But I think this was the winner. This was a very strong one, and I'm stoked with it.